like, are you starting?
No. I didn't.
It's still there, right?
I didn't want to be exclusive.
You just put everybody on there, because I'm even on the email, I can't even serve.
Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Janelle Baskin. I'm the Open Education Librarian here at Walker Library. This is our first event this week as far as part of Open Education Week. So welcome to our OER Champions Showcase. A special welcome to those that are joining us on Zoom. So our event was chosen to be included in THEC's Open Education Week schedule. So if you are on Zoom, feel free to introduce yourself. We may have people not only from MTSU, but from Tennessee or elsewhere. So we'd like to kind of see where you're from. We also invite you to come back on Thursday. We're going to have another event. It's going to be solely on Zoom. It's going to be a presentation about student perspectives on textbook costs. So we did a survey in the fall, asking students how they were impacted with textbook costs. We're going to be sharing the findings from that. So if you want to get the Zoom link, it's on the Center for Teaching and Mentoring event calendar. Okay, so our agenda today, we're going to have a few brief opening remarks. And then we're going to have 4 faculty presentations that are about 10 minutes each. And then at the very end, we're going to give out our very first Textbook Hero Award. So we're excited about that in partnership with SGA. And then we're going to finish up with some cake to celebrate that we reached the milestone of $3 million in student savings from this is obviously a big initiative that takes a lot of collaboration. So I wanted to thank several folks before we get started. I wanted to thank the members of our Community Engagement Advisory Group subcommittee for helping me plan this event and helping me plan all OER related things in the last year or so. Thank you for the Center for Teaching and Mentoring for hosting today and helping me plan this event. Thank you to the Provost Office for their support of OER and funding our pilot OER grant program right now. Many people to thank you within Walker Library, especially Dean Schman, my chair, Kristen West, Marianne Jones, and then I also want to give a special shout out to Suzanne Mangrum, who was really the original OER librarian before I was here, and she was doing it while she also had her regular full-time job. So she laid a great foundation for this program to be built on, and so I want to give her. Also, 2 special campus partners I want to give shout outs to. So the Office of Institutional Effectiveness Planning and Research, specifically out of that office, Trey England and Jerry and Clark, which I have worked with to create our data dashboard. If we didn't have that dashboard, we could not track the impact of these courses and know how much we're saving students. You would not know how much I get complimented on that dashboard. When I go out and do conferences and put that dashboard up, people come up to me and they're so like, tell me how you did that. And I'm like, I have no credit for that. All the credit goes to them. So they have been a blessing to work with. Also out of the registrar's office, specifically Kim Primus, she works with me every semester to mark all of those courses that are labeled as 0 textbook costs, which is a huge endeavor of spreadsheets and add it to this one and take it off this one. And so very tedious, but she's always does it with a smile and is very positive with me. So, and then lastly, I want to thank SGA. We have the SGA president, RJ, here with us today. We've been happy to partner with them about textbook affordability. We did a presentation for them last week, and we're excited to partner on these new awards with them that come from SGA, which we'll share more about here in just a few minutes. Okay, so I'm going to now turn it over to Katie Brackett, who is the Senior Director of Academic Affairs for the Tennessee Higher Education Commission, to say a few words.
Good morning, everybody. It's always so nice to be back at MTSU's campus. On behalf of THEC, I am so thrilled to be here today, and I really appreciate all the work that you all are doing in this space. MTSU is really a leader, and you all have a fantastic champion in Janelle. She represents MTSU well and is tireless in promoting the work that you're doing and in ensuring that the state stakeholders are aware of what you're doing, are able to engage, and that we are staying on target with all of our efforts in OER. I do want to give a shout out to my staff member, Josh Nade, who manages the OER work for THEC. He's in Memphis, so he's unable to be here today, but very grateful to have him on our team and leading this work. In the next few years, THEC is really excited to support and promote the work that you all are doing as individual campuses, but also to be critically thinking about how we can unify data collection so that we are really capturing the impact across the state. Many of our campuses are doing excellent work in this space. And so we want to promote and get the data together so that you all can make a sustained case for continued support. So I'm very glad to be here. So excited for the presentations, and I'm going to pass it over to Dean Schmand at this time.
Well, Janelle got me up here to say just a few things. And so good morning and welcome to this, I think our first OER Champions Showcase. Today we're celebrating a very important milestone for student success at MTSU. Our commitment to open educational resources is making a real and measurable difference by reducing financial barriers and ensuring students have access to materials that they need from day one. Since launching our zero textbook cost initiative in 2022, we have transformed learning experience across campus, 274 courses, more than 2,000 course sections, and over 33,000 students have benefited from ZTC offerings. Together, these efforts have saved students more than $3.3 million in textbook cost, and the momentum continues to grow each semester. This progress would not be possible without Janelle Baskin, our fearless open education librarian, and our faculty, OER Champions, and the committee and work that partner and are making also so much effort on this work. These are dedicated campus partners who advocate for, design, and support these open educational resources. Your creativity, collaboration, and commitment are helping us build a more affordable and inclusive academic experience for every Blue Raider. Thank you for all you do and for continuing to put students at the center of our work. Thank you.
Okay, so we are going to start with our faculty presentations, and we're going to go with Dr. Dianna Rust, first from University Studies. She has to teach a class right after this, so we're going to get going so she can get out of here. The next, yeah, good to go.
Okay.
So I just click and then we're going to go. Yeah, there you go.
I'm sure we use it for that, but
Or you can use that.
Oh, okay, thank you. Well, I don't want y'all to look at that picture for very long. And it looks like we need to admit someone. There we go. Well, thank you for the invitation to talk about the press book that we ended up developing for our PRST 3995 interdisciplinary research class. How this all started for us is we did have a problem we were trying to solve, which has already been alluded to, which is the fact that many of our students were attempting to complete our course without the textbook because they did not have the funds or couldn't allocate the funds, in our opinion, to get that textbook. And our adults that are in our degree completion program, and I say adults, we do have traditional age students, but the average age of our major is 37. So we do trend much higher in age with our students. These students don't typically have the same scholarship opportunities as a traditional student. So they're not going to get all the fabulous freshman and even transfer student scholarships that MTSU offers. In addition, many times they're going to be doing just 6 hours, so they also wouldn't qualify because they're not full-time. They're going to be taking out loans to do that, or many of them do get employee assistance benefits, but we found those also get capped at like $5,000 a year or different things like that, which means they're going into their pocket for their textbooks. And these are students who potentially are in jobs that may not be paying as much because they don't have a degree. And many, many times they have family responsibilities. They're putting their funds towards their children, or maybe they're even taking care of someone else in their family beyond children, maybe their parents even at that age. So we knew there was a problem, and the first thing that happened is there was a call for an OER grant that we accepted and received. So thank you to MTSU and the people who made that possible. But our first step was just to find OER and put it in D2L as links. And we did that for quite a while. And then I'm not sure how we ended up creating a press book. Probably Janelle sent us something and said, you really should think about utilizing this wonderful resource. And so the other person we need to thank really is our department chair and maybe academic affairs, because we did receive reassigned time to put together this press book, myself and Dr. Morris. So I'm going to speak a lot today, but really it was a team effort with myself and Dr. Morris and a GA, Corinne Fan, who's no longer at the university because she finished her MBA. So we would not have been able to undertake this effort seriously in our workload without that reassigned time and without the help of a GA. So I do need to say those things. But we really think the press book has been very helpful for our students in making things more streamlined within our class. Students are very used to a textbook approach versus what we had been trying to do, which is just a lot of links in D2L, which can get very overwhelming when you open it and you're like, there's a link, there's a link, there's a link. And then we're also finding the links, of course, are not always stable or solid, right? And so then you're in the middle of a term across multiple 9 sections, and now a link is dead. And, students are emailing and instructors are emailing. So we do think the press book has really helped us. And I want to spend most of my time today just sharing the press book with you. We just started using it in fall 2025. So we have been zero cost prior to that, but the press book just started in fall. So this is just our second semester teaching with the press book. But already we think that it's a big improvement for us. And anything that's pretty or visual is definitely the GA. And maybe you would say, well, it's not very pretty, but I think there are some nice visual elements in here, and I need to give her credit for that because Dr. Morris and I just came up with the content. Our GA put everything in the press book for us. Now we had to do the editing ourselves after Janelle so meticulously helped us correct many, many things. And I cannot emphasize the need for someone like Janelle, I think, when you undertake something like this. And she also suggested resources for us that we could add. So she greatly improved this book. And so we did have to do all the editing because our GA had graduated by the time we got all that great feedback from Janelle. But the thing I want to just point out here, this is in my way. How do I get that over here? Sorry, it's hard for me to see the navigation with that in my way. I want to point out on 1.1, just some of the features of this textbook. And I hope this isn't too elementary for the people in the room. You guys may already be great at all of this. This was all new to us. But something we really like about the press book is you can see here, we're really personalizing this content for our students. So instead of just giving them the link to this OER that we found out in Creative Commons or grabbing a chapter from a press book that another university created, which is what we had been doing, we can now personalize it. So we're an interdisciplinary studies class, right? So we want to talk about interdisciplinary studies at MTSU. So first we start talking about our major and how it is interdisciplinary. And we even give them a link to the core of our major. But then we come down here and we begin talking about other programs at MTSU that are interdisciplinary. So here we highlight our women's studies minor, and we highlight the writing minor, and just all the other great minors and majors we have at MTSU that are interdisciplinary. So we really like the availability of personalization for our students when we move to the press book. So you'll notice here in 1.1, we're utilizing a lot of references and taking the content that we found and tweaking it to suit our needs for our learning outcomes and our university students. So we did borrow from many, many sources of information. If you go in here, just to give you a sense of what I'm talking about, This is one of the resources we found that we really liked, where they just go through the big terms our students may not be familiar with, like interdisciplinarity or even disciplines. You know, most of our students don't really know about that term. But then right here in the middle, they mentioned students from Plymouth State University. Well, before we had the press book, we just put this chapter in our class. And so in the middle of reading, now all of a sudden the student is sort of, I would say, disoriented. Why am I reading this chapter, but they're not talking about MTSU? So again, that was just something that we felt like improved when we went to the use of an edited press book. Very much aligned with our content and what we want our students to know in our class. Another page I wanted to show is 1.3. We reached out and got permission from the London School of Business to include this article into the press book. But what we were able to do, not just tell the students to read this article, but go ahead and give them sort of the takeaways, right? And this is an online class, I should say that. So we're trying to give them the takeaways here. When we teach this on ground, which we only teach one section on ground, again, our student population typically can't get here, but a few of them need to, like our veterans or international students like to take it face-to-face. These would be the discussion prompts maybe in our class. But we're asking them some pointed questions like, be sure to note the ideas given to increase this skill, or what are some things to be aware of with perspective taking? There is a dark side, and the article refers to that. So we like being able to give them sort of those reading prompts within the press book. And then I'm sure everybody does this, but including some video and some things so that our students are not just always reading text. So we liked being able to do that very simply. So we do have videos in multiple chapters in this press book. And then in chapter 2, I just wanted to highlight in 2.2, again, we're adapting content from a press book. This chapter in our book came exclusively from one chapter in interdisciplinary studies, a connected learning approach. But again, instead of just using it completely the way those authors presented it, we just tweaked it for our needs. And then another thing we did to really help make it MTSU-y, and this was Janelle helped us with this. We go through a lot of information literacy, and it's one of our learning outcomes for this class. And so when we got to news as a source, there's a lot of information here for the student. Oh, and this is something else we did, an interactive activity. So these are sort of interspersed across several of the chapters where the student can be more interactive with the content as they're reading, sort of like a reading check. But the other thing, and Janelle, this is the type of thing Janelle was so helpful with in our news databases, you know, let's include the Tennessee Electronic Library. Let's include the MTSU newspaper database. So again, tweaking it for our audience, letting our students know you have access to these things that are more local to you, not letting go of anything else, but just as an additive for our students. And then again, some of the other things we have in here, let's go to 5.1. I think this demonstrates this. I know I'm about to run out of time. Using multiple sources, I think I've already mentioned this, but we really liked how Davis explains multiple disciplines, having research or having something to say about a complex problem. So we really liked how she discussed these disciplinary insights for urban food deserts, but we're also introducing something from another source before the students get to that. So again, just compiling different sources, making this match the learning outcomes for our class. So the last two things I want to share, I hope I have time, are the analytics. We've had 956 visitors since January 2026. So I just pulled for this semester. And of those, 618 are entering from D2L. And we expect that. This book is really for our majors in this class. But having said that, we did get an email from a colleague in Georgia already, and the book has just been out there since fall. So I thought that was very nice. And she just thanked the three of us for sharing it through a Creative Commons license, because she is going to use it for her new interdisciplinary course that she's developing through the curriculum committee. And she just expressed her generosity in sharing the work. and wanted me to convey my thanks to others. That was Amanda Knight, a professor of English. And then I realized I really need to thank all the people that we use their content in our book. So I've got to start writing a lot of emails to thank them. If you have any questions, I may have a few seconds left. No, I have no seconds left. And that was perfect because I didn't really want to answer questions. I'm teasing. If you have a question, I think you all know how to reach me and I'm happy to answer them.
Our next presenter is Dr. Becky Seipelt-Thiemann from the Department of Biology.
I'm gonna bring my timer up here.
I can see your slides. I close that tab out. There it is.
Oh. All right. I'm sitting there for 8 minutes. There we go. All right. So I'm Becky Seipelt-Thiemann, and I guess I'll just stand over here. To keep things consistent. I'm talking about a project that is a huge collaboration started during COVID times. The seeds were in COVID because a collaborator of mine found that her students, their internships were just being shut down because of the pandemic. And so she was trying to get something that they could use because they needed to graduate. So she and many people who are in biology and microbiology know about these podcasts over here that you'll see this weekend. And the main one is microbiology. And so these are professional scientists who work in the field, and they get together and they talk about papers and new research that's going on. And so it's kind of like an entry point, she was thinking, to begin to understand primary literature, which is a big deal in the sciences. And it's a really hard point for most students because it's a lot of language that they don't know and visualizations and structure. And so thinking that if we could annotate these podcasts with what's in them, at what the students would be doing is annotating what's in them and just putting it out there for other people who teach microbiology to understand, like, in this podcast 105, they talk about these things. In this podcast 207, they talk about these things. So they could pull them in the class and sort of promote more active learning. And it grew from that, like all things do. So going back to this, it grew into this NSF-funded project to enhance science literacy and data literacy. So the students are really engaging with the professional podcast, but also faculty members, because part of the grant was for us who already knew how to do the annotations, to train other faculty who were working with their students to annotate the podcast. Now there's about 350 of these podcasts just for the microbiology one now, and we have about 150 of them annotated, and we added components as you do when you see something is really nice. So what we ended up doing is creating active learning resources that are sprinkled, well, maybe not sprinkled, but so each podcast has a variety of active learning components. So a faculty member could look up what they're going over in class next week and say, I want it on this topic. I want to bring in a podcast just to have the students listen to this piece of the podcast and begin to understand and listen to the scientific literature being discussed. So there's that. And then we also added these figure reading exercises that are more about digging into a particular figure, and I'm going to show you some of those. So we ended up with like many entry points where the students were and the faculty we were training were being engaged with the podcast itself. But then we also wanted to, well, there's 31 faculty that have been trained so far, 21 institutions and 160 students spread all across the world, like mostly in the United States. But the early ones were when COVID hit, people went home, like to Brazil. So there were students who were in Brazil doing this with Iowa State. Right now we have 99 chapters in the book, and I'm going to show you that. But the idea, I'm going to move over here, is that students and faculty were involved at 2 levels about the building, and then now we're looking at the use. So the interns, we know they gain in their content but they also gain in their confidence in looking at primary literature. That's what we know right now. And we're just beginning the use because it just came out late December. So December 31st, and I have cards. There you go. Okay, so in these sections, you'll see a podcast annotation section. They're aligned. In biology, we go with vision and change topics. We're trying to get more active learning being involved. But also, this is a microbiology podcast, so it's the American Society for Microbiology has their own curriculum guidelines, so everything's aligned with that, those two things. So the guidelines, there's a transcript because science words can be hard to hear and to understand what they are. So we have transcripts that are edited by students. We also have the techniques and the concepts. Ooh, that's a touch screen.
Going the wrong way.
All right, okay, so learning objectives are important and multiple choice questions that are aligned with the learning objectives. This is the part that I, in my non-instructional assignment last fall, did a lot of work on because not a lot of students work with those kinds of things. So the learning objectives and the multiple choice questions are aligned with all that's in there. And then our two standalone figure reading exercises, learning objectives for each of those, multiple choice questions that are aligned. We were able to include the figure if it was Creative Commons license. I know all about Creative Commons licensing now. And the multiple choice questions that are aligned. So I'm just going to show you the book. 99 chapters. Okay, so it's 5 years. People, so in case you want to see that in real time, I'm at 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's also on the cards. Okay, so this is what it kind of looks like if you take it out of context. But I'm going to go over here to the book first. So this is what our book looks like to start with. And if you click on it to read the book, here's all the goals. Again, you know, the content you're going to get to is along the left-hand border, and it's vision and change topics. So we're really trying to promote like evidence-based learning and active learning in our classes. And what each chapter is it's 3 pieces that a faculty member can pick up and just use independently of one another, or they could use it in pieces. So introduction with the podcast, then the figure reading exercise. So it's all about science literacy and trying to get students involved in there. So they're listed by the TWIM number, but we have them annotated and sort of linked. So this one, the value of wiping. Okay, so you'll see, I might use a touchscreen now. All right. Okay, so here's the annotation, links to where things are at, who annotated the podcast, and the students who did the annotation right here. So you'll see that there are many people listed. This is actually a faculty member, Eileen Hotsey. You can request the answers that are password protected. So we go down here. The students had what's the most interesting thing? Okay, and then we had the abstract if we were able to have Creative Commons licensing. Another, what's the interesting thing about the students? So they had a snippet, which they discuss a little, and then a main paper. That's how we categorize them. So there's that. Here's our vision and change topics and ASM guidelines. So a faculty member could come in. Here's what I'm talking about next week. I need a topic for this. Okay, they can look and see which ones fit. Okay, then learning objectives for the podcast, if we're in lower or higher order and lower order, the topics from the snippet paper, topics from the main, questions. Okay, figure reading exercises. Like this is a chunk that doesn't depend on anything else. So if what you're doing, you want to have like students look at the bar graph. If you want to, this little piece up here, which I wrote a lot of those in the introduction, trying to get just an orientation, not analysis, because that's the job of the students who are reading this. So they're looking at all these things. So this is Creative Commons license. And then once you give them this, then we have learning questions aligned with the learning objectives. And I checked every single one of those. Second one, same deal. Okay, and then just at the end, we've got our licensing information, verify that it's Creative Commons, we're allowed to use it. So 99 chapters, 3 things each in each chapter. So, almost 300 things that faculty could use for active learning in their own classrooms. All I have to do is search for it. So microbiology or anything microbiology adjacent, like genetic. I'm using some of these for my genetics in the fall. So genetics, cell biology, virology, all those little biology things. That's what we have, and we're all spread across the country. And the person that helped with this was Janelle, but also the OER librarian at Iowa State, who is Abby Elder, was awesome as well. So there we go. It's a big project.
This is a great example of one thing of how you can have students involved in helping create OER, and also showing that you can collaborate with colleagues from across the world. If you don't have to just be here, you can make a press book with someone in your discipline, that's also teaching somewhere else. So, all right, now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Janet Colson and Sarah Harris.
I'm Janet Colson, and this is Sarah Harris, and she's the good one of the two of us. What we're doing with our OER grant that we got this year is we're revising a press book that we worked on back in 2021. In 2021, there was little mini grants that we got. So we decided that we needed a press book for our introductory nutrition class. And what we did is we remixed 2 existing press books. One of them was from Hawaii. And actually, that was like the grandmother of this. And then Lane Community College in Oregon, they kind of adapted that press book. We kind of combined the 2. And what we're doing now is we're coming out with the second edition, and hopefully we'll start using it this summer. Why did we do this? We did it because I'm cheap and I don't like students to go out and have to pay $100 for a textbook. And also many students were not buying textbooks like other people have said. Also, the class that this is used for is a True Blue core class. And we have like 350 to 400 students each year that use it. In addition to MTSU students using it, high school teachers throughout the state use it. There's a nutrition pathway, and the sophomore year at the high school level, they have a nutrition across the lifespan, and they use it for that class too. These are our analytics for our current book, beginning in July of 21 when we started it. And again, during that time is when we were developing it, but you can see the increase in it. And these are the analytics from last year.
These are total visitors, page views.
Okay.
I know you probably can't read that.
Okay, then if you can point out that, you'll go and point it out and I'll flip. But this is for last year, for 2025.
Well, so there's over 26,000 total visitors and then over 50,000 page views.
And this is just from this year. I decided why not, include who was looking at it this semester. And it's kind of interesting because you can see what day of the week they look at it.
Don't see that at all.
Okay. The outline of our textbook is like any basic introductory nutrition textbook. We have 12 chapters in the book. And if you go into the chapter, and I think that Dianna kind of pointed this out, but in looking at unit 5, when you click the little plus button, it will take you to the different subsections. And then when you click again, it will take you to the subsections within that area. And it's kind of interesting when you look at the analytics. These are the most visited sections in the book. I love analytics. But the first one is section 5.3, which is the 3 classes of lipids, followed by 2.3, the classifications of nutrients, et cetera, et cetera. And I like to look at this because then we go back and we look at that section and we see what is wrong with that. Why do people look at this one and not at the others? And this is just giving you a peek inside the book. This is section 5.3, and you can see we did remix this from other areas. So we were able to use a lot of their graphics that are already approved. But this is kind of the colorful one from the 3 classes of lipids. Then you can also look at the analytics to see where people go to find the book. And number 1 is my favorite thing is Google. More people Google to find it than anything else. eLearn, which is kind of depressing, that's number 3 on the list. Number 7, that's Knox County Schools. And that just shows you that high school teachers throughout the state do use it. And in Knox County, they have a lot of nutrition classes at the high school level. Now, what we're doing for our 2nd edition, and Sarah, you can kind of speak on this, but we're trying to streamline the chapters because some of the chapters are just way too long.
Right, and I know I've been working on just editing some things, spacing, spelling, punctuation, things that may have been missed in edition 1, and then some correcting some political correctiveness in there. I don't know if anyone over the age of 65 likes to be called elderly, but I did take that out. The older adult, things like that. And then removal of repeated info. There was some information that was mentioned several times. So just reducing overall word count and anything that was repeated. And then updating references. I don't know if anyone follows My Plate. I'm sure everyone's on there all the time looking at the types of food groups you are supposed to be eating, but that disappeared last week under our new administration. So, and My Plate was mentioned a lot in this textbook. So, you know, just updating information based on current guidelines. Things. So
she said that making things politically correct. I wrote it in and I wrote the section on the new upside down pyramid and the new dietary guidelines that promote beef tallow. So I was just very negative about that aspect. This lady here, she went through and kind of corrected it a little bit. She says we can't show one, you know.
Can't show what's either on the textbook.
So there are a lot of good things about that. But also with nutrition, things do change very frequently. And a lot of the websites that we've gone to, she mentioned that My Plate disappeared and we had many assignments related to My Plate. And when that disappears right in the middle of the semester, it's really kind of difficult. But we kind of, with a book like this, we're able to tweak it and make changes.
It's been really fun to edit and improve upon.
Yeah, but I really like looking at the analytics to see what people actually use. And in our book, we have a lot of the questions at the end of the chapter. Currently, we don't have it linked to D2L or Canvas in the future, but hopefully we'll be able to take that book and be able to link the questions, the quiz questions for Canvas. Any questions?
This is a great example of how you can have the freedom to remix things. So you don't have to start from scratch. There's excellent material already out there, and then you can customize it to your students. And then gives you the freedom to update it when you want to update it and not have to wait on a publisher and all of that process. So
I would like to give you one bit of advice. Dianna inspired me because she said that she went and got release time to create her book, but I did not get release time. So, but again, if you do go out and do anything like this, then do ask for release time.
Yeah, I'm 6 classes deep, and yeah.
Can I ask you a question? You said that you were utilizing this with 450 to 500 students or something. How many sections is that?
We have 5 sections. That is
Are y'all the only instructors for those?
No, we have adjuncts that teach it, and we have another faculty member. Actually, we have 2 other faculty members teaching.
And how does the dissemination go with changes that you make? Or are y'all just using the one link and everybody goes to that one?
Repeat your
Like
question.
if you make changes to the course, is it, or is that disseminated into individual instructor versions of the book, or are y'all just using the one link to distribute?
We just use the one link right now, and we have not started using the second edition.
Okay.
But we plan to have a link in the first edition to go out for the second edition. So,
Thank you.
hopefully in June it will be live.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Amy Sayward in the history department, and I have more gray hair than this picture shows. So we're at the beginning of a project, so I don't have any great things to show you yet. Coming soon, a modern Tennessee history. So I'm in the history department. I'm not from Tennessee, which my students always point out when I teach Tennessee history, with my lilting Southern accent that I got from Western New York. But the current standard textbook is Tennesseans and Their History. It was published in 1999. A few things have happened in Tennessee since 1999. The legislature moved from being majority Democratic to majority Republican. It's one thing. It costs $26.95 for the paper version, $17.47 for the ebook. And it skews, like most history is written earlier, towards political history with an emphasis on leaders. Who was the governor? What did the Constitution say, etc. Our vision for a modern Tennessee history, we're hoping, again, we're in process, to pilot it in Tennessee history courses this fall. It will be free to students, and we have decided to emphasize young people and the diverse set of Tennesseans who have made the state's history. Our goal, so my other hat is I'm the head of the American Democracy Project, promoting voter education, registration, and civic engagement among our students. And so one of my goals is for students to see themselves in Tennessee history and see the ways in which young people have changed and transformed the state and say, I could do that too. And two of our key themes are resilience and creativity amongst Tennesseans. So again, tied to ask you, I'm very happy that there's a THEC audience for this, because our goal from the beginning is to imagine this for use not only by students statewide, some high school as well as colleges and universities, but also our history partners across the state. We have great historic sites and organizations, East Tennessee Historical Society, Center for Historic Preservation, and that they can also link, use, reuse, remix these materials. This is a big old partnership. MTSU, Janelle has been super helpful, but also this would not have happened without my colleague who can't join us today, Dr. Monica Butler from Motlow State Community College. So this is my 27th year at MTSU. Monica was one of my former undergraduate students before she got her PhD and became a professor at Motlow, and she knows all the OER stuff. So this is an old history professor learning new tricks, working with OER, but she has really taken the lead and has been a leader across the state on this, and she is my partner. The University of Tennessee Press was where we started, and they have been great partners in terms of, they said, yes, we will maintain this OER resource, we will support it, and we'll also print on demand copies of books, not only for those students who need print copies, but also so that those community partners, if you go to a state park and you go to their bookstore, that you could pick up a copy of this modern Tennessee history. And those resources will go back into sustaining this project over the long term. Tennessee State Parks, and of course with MTSU, the OER project, we got a grant that we're very thankful for. Especially we are partnering with Dr. Andrew Fialka in the history department, who is making our maps for our book. Maps are one of the things that are least likely to be available through Creative Commons licenses, and super excited for a map. For example, I love World War II. Oops, leaned on the
World War II that allows us to show on one map, you know, where was Oak Ridge, but also where were all of the new airports that were established that became the city airports? Where were the Tennessee state maneuvers that, and where, those amazing things with the maps, where are people moving from and to? So people can also see the huge migration that happened within the state as a result of World War II. So thank you. Looking forward to being able to show you something next time.
Another excellent example of partnership across the state to create OER. It doesn't have to just be at our institution. Okay, so we're going to jump into our textbook hero awards now. I'm going to ask RJ to come up here with me. And we've got 3 recipients this year for this award. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the award, and then I'll call each one up, and I'm going to actually read one of the nominations that was submitted on their behalf. So we were happy to partner with SGA to launch this award this year to recognize faculty for their work to reduce textbook costs for MTSU students. We received 41 nominations, which I think is pretty good for the first year. And 3 instructors were selected. We turned all those nominations over to SGA to pick our winners. But I want to just take a moment to say, if anyone is here today, we want to recognize all the nominees. If you are here and you were nominated for this award, would you please stand for a moment so we can recognize you? When we presented to SGA last week, we had some complaints about some professors and the high textbooks that they assign, and let's shine the light on the good ones that are doing the good work. So we're thankful for everything that you all do to help our students succeed. All right, so I'm going to announce our first winner and ask Dr. Kim Godwin to come up.
Could you guys slide over in front of the?
Yeah.
Yeah. And ready? Take a few.
Right, Kim, stand right here for a second. I'm going to read stuff about you. Nice things. Good work. First time for everything. She got multiple nominations, and I just picked one to read. So this says, Dr. Kim Godwin exemplifies the spirit of the Textbook Heroes Award through her strong ongoing commitment to reducing financial barriers for students. She has developed 8 zero textbook cost courses and supported the development of 4 additional ZTC courses, with a 5th currently in progress, primarily through creating and curating open materials and Pressbooks. By replacing costly textbooks with high-quality, accessible resources, Dr. Godwin has saved students thousands of dollars while improving access to course materials from day one. Her leadership and advocacy for open educational practices continue to inspire other faculty and advance student success at MTSU, making her highly deserving of this award. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. And our next one, I'm not sure she's here because I don't know what she looks like. Dr. Meredith Ann Higgs from the University Studies Department.
Oh, sorry.
Whatever, just a little to your, yeah, I'm gonna center you kind of on I want to see the hero a little bit there. Slide up a little more to your right. There we go, that's good. Next three.
It's kind of fun. It's here to help.
Quick. Yeah. Okay, while these swap.
I'm not even come up here.
Okay.
Let's see here. All right, and ready? Excellent, thank you.
About you now. Okay, Dr. Higgs believes in our students. As professor in University College, Dr. Higgs seeks ways to provide access, support, and continued retention of MTSU students. When she saw that some of the required texts in her classes were increasing in cost and becoming a burden, she, with 2 other faculty members, wrote the very first MTSU Pressbook. From this ambitious beginning, Dr. Higgs has gone all in to reduce or eliminate textbook costs in courses that she can modify. In 4 of her PRST courses, she uses zero-cost alternatives such as OER. With her co-authors, she has written 3 OER textbooks. Her efforts have saved thousands of dollars per semester for her students. Her efforts have had a major impact on our students who often struggle with college affordability. Dr. Higgs has saved students thousands of dollars and reduced barriers to success. And Dr. Beglin is one of my co-authors. You saw him, yeah. Okay, and our last winner today is Dr. Kate Pantelides from English department. See if we can try this time.
And ready? One more. And don't go anywhere. Is there anyone else that want to get it before I?
Okay. So this was her submission. I worked under Kate while she was developing the English 1010 and 1020 OERs. She taught me about open educational resources. She continually champions them in the department, even though she's no longer Gen Ed English director. She has applied for and received many grants for OER, and she has brought FTTs and graduate students into the process. There are more sections of English 1010 and 1020 than any other single class on campus, and Kate has worked hard to ensure students can save money on their Gen Ed classes. Well, that's a wrap. Thank you guys very much for coming today, and please grab some cake on your way out. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for Dianna.